www.hra18.org. Come back for free refills and meet friends like these, whose stories will touch hearts, expand understanding, and impact actions. Share the link with friends. Discover Holocaust Remembrance Association's virtual and live events at www.hra18.org. rise up and march against anti-Semitism and all kinds of hatred, this is the time and place for our generation to stand up for what is right. Not only stand, but march to drown out the voices of hatred in our world that have even reached the halls of Congress. Visit marchforremembrancehouston.org. Come and be a part of something you'll never forget.
My name is Brian Strauss, and I'm the Senior Rabbi of Congregation Beth Yeshurun in Houston, Texas. I want to thank my friends who this year, on the second day of Sukkot, are lifting up their voices for a global movement to say that they are proud of Israel and the Jewish people. During this global pandemic and this difficult year of 2020, it's nice and reassuring that we have friends who aren't afraid to stand up for the Jewish people everywhere. Thank you giving us the reassurance and for all that you do for Am Yisrael, the people of Israel. All my best and only blessings in the holy work that you do.
From Consul General of Israel to the Southwest, Gilad Katz. Welcome.
Thank you. Thank you to you all. Just one second. I prefer this. Allow me to speak about a topic that may be a little not PC, but I think this topic is important for all of us to understand the impact that the Holocaust had on the Jewish people. Today, 2021, in the entire world, there are around approximately 14.8 million Jews. The last time there were 14.8 million Jews was in 1928, meaning 97 years ago. After 97 years ago, we got to the same number. During those 97 years, humanity has increased from around 5 billion to 7 billion. And the Jewish people, as I said, are now only 14.8 million people. Allow me to say to give two more examples, number examples with Jews and numbers. We all know that in the Holocaust, 6 million Jews were murdered, butchered. But today, unfortunately, the number 6 million is abstract. We don't really understand what 6 million people mean. So just to get a sense of the number, every minute during the Holocaust from 1940 to 1945, 5 years, every single minute, 2 Jews were put to death. Every minute, 2 Jews. That is something that we just can't comprehend. Another example that shows you the problematic of us understanding the numbers is that out of those 6 million Jews, 1.5 million were kids under the age of 18. 1.5 million kids under the age of 18. Today, 14. Today, in Israel, under the age of 18, there are less than 1.5 million kids. 2021, Israel, less than 1.5 million kids, almost 80 years after the Holocaust. Where does that take me? What is my conclusion? As the representative of the State of Israel, my personal conclusion sums up into two words: might and right. Unfortunately, before the foundation of Israel, we didn't have the might. We just didn't have any might. We were right, but that didn't help us. We didn't have the might. But being mightyful is not enough. One has to be also righteous or right. The combination of might and right, I think that is what the State of Israel symbolizes. The alliance with the great state of the United States symbolizes, and that is also what symbolizes democracy. Understanding that the might is not enough, you have to also be right. I would like to thank Rosalie, I don't know where she is, and all the organizers of the March of Remembrance. I arrived here 4 years ago. I've never heard, I have to be honest with you, I never heard about your organization. But during the last 4 years, I got to know Rosalie and I got to know the organization. And this is something that I'll take with me to the rest of my days. Your organization is extremely important for your members, but also for the climate. The society climate, it's extremely important, and most important, it is important for the next generation. The next generation must see and learn from your knowledge, your determination, and I truly thank each and every one of you. This coming summer, I'm ending my tenure, so this will be my last time I'm taking part in your March of Remembrance. But as I said, you'll be with me in my heart until the day I die, and this I see is my own precious present that I received from you. So thank you very much. Toda Rabba. Am Yisrael Chai.
Give him a hand. This man is wonderful. He's been helping us too. And we just love Gilad. This is a little gift for you. My uncle came on the Altalena. He was a Holocaust survivor. And he was one of the first ceramic artists in Tel Aviv. And I'm giving you a piece of his artwork, which says, "If I forget thee, O Jerusalem, let my right hand forget her coming. If I do not remember thee, let my tongue cleave to the roof of my mouth. If I prefer not Jerusalem above my chief joy." And I know you're returning to Israel, so I thought you'd like to have that. So.
Thank you very much.
We're with Timberwood Middle School, and we had our middle school kids get these rocks made for us with the names on here, and they created them. They put their name on the back, and then they put the person who passed away on the rock right here. The kids really enjoyed this because they just read The Boy in the Striped Pajamas, so they were very, very interested in doing this. And it meant a lot to them. So,
yeah, and I had my students do kind of like an SEL project with it, where, because she teaches 6th, I teach 7th and 8th grade, so we did more of what kind of things with these kids that have gone through in the situation, really trying to put themselves in their shoes and learning from that, and yeah.
Hi, I'm Julie Wimberly. I'm the counselor at Bear Branch Elementary School in Kingwood, Texas. And my whole school was privileged to be able to work on the Upstander Stone project this past school year. We were able to go into the classrooms, teachers facilitated lessons about being an upstander and just being able to press into a situation when someone isn't being treated fairly or kindly. And, you know, the students were very touched by that. Our older students really understood the history of the Holocaust and the impact that had, but even younger students saw the names and ages on the stones of some of these children that were treated so poorly and murdered. And we are just really grateful that we had this opportunity, and to be able to support the Holocaust Remembrance Association was such a privilege. And we're very grateful for Bethel and her team of volunteers who supported us so well through this whole project. Being able to have the materials provided to us and be able to roll it out so seamlessly was a great help for a campus as large as ours. We had over 600 students who were able to paint rocks, and we just can't wait till the garden comes together so the kids can go visit and have that full experience, the full circle of being able to support a project, but then also to see the final results of their work. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
So the mission of the HRA is to sensitize hearts to the Holocaust and stand up and confront modern-day anti-Semitism.
And when there are places like the Garden of Hope in Kingwood, Holocaust Museum Houston, and people who are able to tell their stories, people who are able to share, then we fulfill that motto, never again.
Israel was in a war on 7 fronts, 7. And it didn't look so great. Do not worry about the IDF, 7 fronts. They got this handled. We are losing another battle on the college campuses, on the social media, in the public square. The spirit of hatred towards Jewish people in Israel, and to raise upstanders and not bystanders. You guys on board?
Remembrance is a biblical commandment. We are supposed to pass on memories to future generations. But we also need to be responsible to act at this time we are living in.
And people, that's where we come in for such a time as this.
We are one march of over 350 cities. So we're part of a bigger movement here to make a public stand against anti-Semitism.
That the horrors of the Holocaust are never forgotten. We can be better prepared to confront the modern manifestations of anti-Semitism and prejudice. And the March of Remembrance serves as a fitting opportunity to reaffirm our steadfast commitment to upholding our common humanity. Now, be it therefore resolved that the 15th Annual March of Remembrance, Houston, be recognized as the kickoff event for the Holocaust Remembrance Week, that the Holocaust Remembrance Association be commended for its efforts to honor the memory of Holocaust victims and educate the public about the importance of the standing against hatred and bigotry.
It needs to be carried forward, taught, protected, and lived out by our next generation.
There were approximately 750,000 prisoners who were evacuated the same way on these death marches. Roughly a third of those perished on the way.
It's a sign of connection, and it's also a sign of choice. Those men and women and children who did that march, many of whom did not finish it, they had no choice. Today, you choose to walk.
Never again was never meant to be a slogan that we would repeat once a year. It was meant to be a line drawn in the sand, a call meant to jar our conscience when we see the sins of the past repeating themselves. Recent events, including the atrocities of October 7th, remind us that anti-Semitism is not confined to the history books. It remains a present danger, and it requires a response.
And this is signed by me, Charles Cunningham, the state representative. Greetings from the governor of the great state of Texas, Governor Greg Abbott, and our Lieutenant Governor Dan Patrick, and the Speaker of the House, Dustin Burrows.
If people don't believe in miracles, I do, because I am a miracle. I survived, and that's why God been with me and let me survive, so that I could help my fellow Jews.
You've heard me say before, in order to know where you're going, you have to know where you come from. And with that, we say never again. May God bless and keep you. Thank you.
cannot change the world through lightning in the sky. God uses his people. We will honor the memory of Jewish people lost because of persecution, and we will ensure that in our country, no Jews will be persecuted in the United States of America, not as long as we are alive. Yesterday, I visited the Holocaust Garden of Hope. The thing that touched me the most is looking at the pictures of the children who are no longer with us.
We believe in one God, and no matter what went and happened to the Jewish people, we know we will prevail.
Anti-Semitism did not end with the Holocaust.
Today, in the shadow of October 7th massacre, the deadliest attack on Jews since the Holocaust, we are reminded that vigilance is not a choice.
After the first shock of what happened in Gaza, the second shock was to see anti-Semitism explode on campus. And I said, unacceptable, and like Edmund Burke, I will not stand still. And I've been writing and talking about what's happening at Rice since then.
We have family, friends, and neighbors all coming together, not by circumstance, but by conviction. And there's a power in that. But we gather tonight because there's this insidious shadow that looms over us called anti-Semitism. We're not here to condemn, but we're here to act. We have completed 3 phases of the Garden of Hope in Kingwood. We have traveling exhibits that will go forth in the future. We have upstander stone projects that are going on in the schools. We have teachers that are being taught to teach the Holocaust around the world. So we're on the front lines in this battle.
I want to share my own personal connection to the Holocaust Remembrance Association. It wasn't but too long ago that my wife, Shana, and our beautiful 4-month-old son, Ronen, visited the Holocaust Garden of Hope. It is really, truly, Rosalie, I don't know where you are, but it's a special place. And thank you for welcoming us. It honors the memory of Holocaust victims and inspires a new generation to defend the Jewish people.
My family was rescued by Christians who put feet to their faith and risked their lives to hide my parents, while the rest of our family was murdered because neighbors turned them in. Descendants of survivors, our job is to keep telling the story.
95, 1, 2, 3. 10,000 goes 1, 2, 3. Sold.
Making your way into the theater and enjoy it. And thank you. Thanks to all the volunteers, and thank you, our special guest.
Welcome to a virtual coffee encounter, brought to you by the Holocaust Remembrance Association. Touching hearts, expanding understanding, impacting actions. The vision of the Holocaust Remembrance Association is to see the world inspired to stand in solidarity against persecution, prejudice, and indifference. Discover, learn, and partner with the Holocaust Remembrance Association's many initiatives by visiting www.hra18.org. Come back for free refills and meet friends like these, whose stories will touch hearts, expand understanding, and impact actions. Share the link with friends. Discover Holocaust Remembrance Association's virtual and live events at www.hra18.org.
Shalom and welcome to our virtual coffee encounter. I'm Rosalie Jerome, the founder and president of the Holocaust Remembrance Association. We are here in Kingwood, Texas, near a super suburb of Houston. And we have with us my husband, Mitch.
Good afternoon.
And we have Joe Machol. Joe, you could take off you can give us your sound. He's our special guest today. Welcome. And I'm pretty much, I'll give you a little bit about Joe. He's a longtime public servant, community leader, and dedicated advocate for preserving the legacy of America's greatest generation. Joe served for many years as a Seabrook, Texas city councilman, position 6, where he championed veterans' causes, community engagement, and civic service. Beyond public service, Joe has had an accomplished career in athletics, serving as a high school, collegiate, and professional football official, including officiating at the NFL level. Joe, you have your rings on you. You could show us in the camera. Joe, we can't hear you. Put your audio back on if you can. Try to find that.
Lower left-hand corner.
He usually wears his 3 NFL rings on his hand when he does speaking events. He's also the proud son. Hopefully he'll figure out how to. Oops, we lost him for a minute.
Is that it? Now?
There
Can
he
you
is.
hear me?
There you are.
Perfect.
Yes. We don't see your rings today.
No, I didn't bring my rings. But
Okay.
normally I do, but I don't have them on today. But
Okay. So Joe is also the proud son of Frederick Bernard Machol, an American soldier who helped liberate the Dachau concentration camp during World War II, and many other things he was involved in. I'll let him tell that story. His father's experiences profoundly shaped Joe's lifelong commitment to Holocaust remembrance and education. Today, Joe is going to share not only the history of liberation, but also the lasting emotional impact it had on the young American soldiers who witnessed the horrors of the Holocaust. I know a lot of people whose families were in World War II, and they would never talk about what they experienced, especially those who were involved with liberating concentration camps. Through Joe's presentations, he honors his father's legacy and reminds us all of our responsibility to stand against anti-Semitism, hatred, and indifference. So we're so glad that you're here, Joe, taking time with us.
well, thank you.
We have questions for you. I know that you have a PowerPoint. So would you like to start with your PowerPoint and then we'll go from there?
Yeah, let's go ahead and do that.
Okay. Let me share this screen. Okay, can everybody see that? Everything's good?
Yes.
Okay. So go ahead, Joe. You want to?
So my dad ended the war as a lieutenant colonel during the war, and when he went through Dachau, he was a major. But there's a picture of him, his service picture on the left, and so in late April 1945, Fred was following the American Army, and he was in counterintelligence, counter-sabotage, and so he was driving that Jeep right there, not the one like that exact Jeep and trailer into the Dachau concentration camp on April 30th, 1945. And as he drove up this kind of like a dirt road, he saw a lady dragging, like he thought it was like a cardboard something, couldn't tell. As they got closer, he realized it was a woman dragging a body, and they had come out, Eisenhower had come out and said that all mass graves had to be individual graves. And so she was tasked to do that. And as he got closer to the gate, he saw the Dachau concentration camp, and he just couldn't believe it. But a day before that, he got a letter from Eisenhower, all officers did, and it said all able-bodied officers get to a concentration camp immediately, one day some son of a bitch is going to deny that this ever happened. And so that's why my dad was at Dachau, because he was right near Munich. And
Well, we lost you. All of a sudden, I can't hear you, Joe. Can you I don't know where you're located, but for some reason, Joe, we're not hearing you right now. You're frozen.
Just reboot, go out and come back in.
Okay, Joe. Can you do that? Sorry. We can't hear you.
There's a major storm where I am at the moment.
Maybe if I stop sharing, maybe it's on my end. Let's try to get him back in. We're thankful for all of you who are attending today. We actually have some people that are on today that are Holocaust survivors. We have some people that are Holocaust educators. We have our docent team. We have those who are descendants of Holocaust survivors that are Jewish or not Jewish. We have Morris Narinsky, who's on, who's going to be our next speaker next month. We have Steve Finkelman, whose dad was also a liberator. Trying to get him back on there.
You have his number, I'll call him.
Well,
I don't have it.
I'll call him. While we're waiting, Steve Finkelman, I'm going to make you into put you as a panelist if you're willing while we're waiting, since your dad was also a liberator. I'm going to put this note to you, Steve, in the chat. You tell me what you want to do. Chat. Okay, Steve, I'm sending you something. Yeah. Okay. He said, okay. All right. So I'm going to figure this out, how to make you a panelist. Okay, Steve, I don't know if your video is on, but you're now going to join as a panelist while we're waiting for, there you are. All right, Steve, can you take the audio on there? Steve, you want to introduce yourself a little bit while we're waiting for Joe to get back on?
Okay. Hi, everybody. I'm Steve Finkelman. Live here in Houston. And actually, my dad was a survivor. He was.
Yeah, I'm
He was
sorry.
liberated. He was
You honor
liberated,
liberators all the time. I always, please forgive me. Yes, go ahead.
and
His
that's
dad
why
was.
I am eternally grateful to people like Joe, to his father, because without these people, I wouldn't be here. So my dad had been in Auschwitz earlier. He was from Poland originally, and he was in during the death marches the first week of January of 45. He was moved to Mauthausen, and then the subcamp of Mauthausen, and he was liberated there by the 71st Division of the U.S. Army. And if I will defer back to Joe if he's back on, has his sound and everything.
Yes. Can you hear me now?
Yeah, I brought Steve. Steve, I'm going to keep you on there because Steve is always honoring the liberators because his dad survived how many concentration camps, Steve?
Probably 4 or 5.
Yeah.
Anyway.
Wolf Finkelman, his story will be in the garden. And Steve, Steve could finish what he was saying, if you don't mind, Joe, and then he'll come and go back to you. Steve, share what your dad did to honor the liberators.
I mean, each story is a little different, but without the support, the luck, and skill, and just the timing, my dad was liberated in May, right at the end of the war, in May of 45, from a subcamp of Mauthausen called Gunskirchen by the U.S. Army, the 71st Division. And it was probably just a matter of days before they wouldn't survive. They were put out with nothing to eat. They were like basically stripping off the tree bark and things like that, digging into the ground looking for anything. And the Nazi guards, many of them left the camp. They abandoned because they knew the U.S. Army was down the road. And but again, for the grace of God, he survived, and he came to the U.S. In December of '46. And by luck of the draw, he ended up in Houston, probably the best place to be in the United States. I'm a little biased, but okay, I'll turn it back to Joe.
I just wanted you to quickly say one thing, though, because before Joe gets back on, of what your dad did, with the Liberator group, that he sponsored their gatherings.
Yeah, but he found out almost by luck of the draw that we did a lot of research together at Yad Vashem in Israel to find out who liberated him. For many decades, he didn't know. So we found this booklet from the 71st Division, and from there he connected with the group that was having annual reunions in the U.S. every year, and he started attending them. And one of them he sponsored himself, it was in the D.C. area, so he sponsored it, and they took them all to the U.S. Holocaust Memorial Museum, where they were honored and thanked. And I participated with this group, and up until COVID, really. So this the 71st Division was disbanded after World War II. So all the vets were World War II guys, and some of the divisions still continue to this day. The U.S. Army makes its own decisions, which units go on or not. So it's an official liberating division, the 71st, and their flag flies proudly in the rotunda at the U.S. Holocaust Memorial Museum every day of the year, except for one day when it's taken to the Capitol, U.S. Capitol, where there's an annual ceremony honoring the Holocaust survivors.
All right. Well, thank you. Stay there. And Joe, I'm going to go back to your PowerPoint, okay?
Okay.
Unless you wanted to respond to Steve in any way.
Well, Steve, that's great. One of the things, like you say, he didn't know. Well, the biggest thing was just to be saved. No one thought, my dad didn't give out business cards or anything like that. He was just busy trying to help as many people as he could, just like the 71st. I know your dad was grateful, but that's why it takes so long to find that, and these guys also didn't go around bragging, oh, I went to this concentration camp and helped people. My dad didn't talk about it a lot because it brought such bad memories, but he understood it needed to be talked about, but it wasn't something he would choose to talk about. When I'd ask, he would talk. So I find that story very interesting, but it's exactly what did happen and would have happened with most liberators, because, they just, in a sense, they were just doing their job. And I know they're grateful that they helped, but I think they all told me, everyone I've ever met, is they wish they could have done more. It's one of those things.
All right, Joe, I'm going to bring you back to your PowerPoint, okay?
Okay.
It's a little emotional here. Okay, just a second. Okay, can everybody see that?
So that's a picture my dad took. That's the train car that had, it was something like 100 cars or something like that. It was at the back of Dachau. The trains came in through the back, and this is more than a mile away from the entrance that you see. And, his first question was like, why, what did these people do? Like, were these people criminals? Were just natural, normal questions. And then he would find out, no, they're just Jews. See, my dad had been Jewish up until 1943, December 18th, because he married an American nurse in Iceland, and she was Catholic. And she said, hey, I can't marry you, Fred, because you're Jewish and I'm Catholic. And he goes, well, what do I need to do to become Catholic? So he took some classes, and on December 18th, he was baptized. And an hour later, they were married. in Reykjavik, Iceland. But so he, obviously he had worn the Star of David on his dog tag, and now he was Catholic, but that didn't matter. He just seeing, and then he find out these people were Jews. But the other thing in Dachau, a lot of people don't realize is the next biggest group, and when I say biggest, because Hitler basically eradicated almost all the uh, uh, different groups, smaller groups, but Catholics were the second biggest behind Jews that the Nazis went after. Now, this picture right here is a man who was sitting upright when Fred came upon this. He was eating a potato, and he slowly just started leaning over, and he laid down. They thought he was like just going to go to sleep. Well, he died right there. He had some water and a potato, and he was just eating a raw potato and passed away right there. And so, because I always ask, like, well, why, there's food, what happened? Well, you can't eat solid foods after you've been starved forever. And so this guy, even though he saw liberators, he still, and this happened to a lot of people. Even after they got there, a lot still passed away because they had been starved so much.
I'm going to ask, since Steve's heard from stories from his dad, Steve, if you could put your audio on for a moment. When your dad was liberated, share a little bit about that.
I heard the same stories that well-meaning Army guys would give the rations or sea rations to these emaciated people, and some of their stomachs would explode. For some reason, I don't know how, my dad was only 16 and a half when he was liberated, but he had the wherewithal to go to the officer quarters and boil some milk. Him and a group of his friends, they started off very slowly, boiling some milk and slowly increasing the amount of food that they were eating. So I have no idea how a 16 and a half year old would have that sense, but somehow he did.
That is amazing, because I probably would have tried to eat every single thing I could see and probably killed myself that way on accident, of course. But, and I'm sure that happened because they were starving.
There's a terrible amount of people that died at liberation just because of that, which is crazy stuff.
Well, in one of the barracks that my dad was shown to by a Catholic Redemptorist priest, there was 3 bricks with a 55-gallon drum in the barrack, and they put turnip peels, carrot peels, a couple pieces of dirty lettuce, and that was the food for 300 people for breakfast, lunch, and dinner. So it was like basically water with a few things in it. Well, that doesn't sustain life. But when people would die in these barracks, they would push them to the back. The bottom was angled. Your head was on the upper part, and your feet were at a little bit of lower, only about 6 to 8 inches lower. And there was only supposed to be 3 people for space, but a lot of times they made them go 6. Well, someone would die. The prisoners would, and they were telling my dad this, and they were crying while telling him that they cut their hearts out, their livers and organs, and they put them in that 55-gallon drum. So they were apologizing about being cannibals. And, my dad said, look, you did what you had to do to survive. No one's ever going to judge you for that. And that's a tough thing to think about. You're that hungry, and you have to do that just to survive. But they did, and no one's ever judged them for that, and no one ever should. You always have to look at who put you into that situation.
That's right.
Those went after those ones. They went after those guards, and my dad said there was a big line of those guys killed. And one guy, when my dad went up to the office where they had a bunch of guards that had been captured, one stood up and clicked his heels and saluted to my dad. my dad went back to punch him in the face, and the MP stopped him. Then he pulled out his 45 to shoot him in the head. MP stuck his between his thumb and his index finger into the hammer before it fell on the 45, and he took the gun away from my dad and said, "Major, you can't kill these people. We're interrogating them now." And he goes, just let me have 1 minute with him. And he goes, "No, Major, we can't do that." He goes, "There's already a big pile of them outside that already happened." But it was an unbelievable sight, And I tell people this: my dad had nightmares the rest of his life, and he was just a liberator. He didn't have to live through it. I mean, he only
How old was he?
My dad was 26 years old when he went through Dachau.
Right.
So, he was older than most soldiers, but, because the average, I think, was like 19 or 20 or something like that. But just think about that at 26 years old, seeing that. And all these guys, on both sides, I'm talking about, camp survivors or, Jewish people who had been through these camps, or soldiers. Soldiers saw a lot of death, people they had to kill or their buddies getting killed. But then survivors living through it, watching your family members die, or, and you don't know what's going to happen with you. I mean, both are horrific. And there's a whole generation, millions of people that went through this. I just watched this thing where the consulate general talked about 2 Jewish people per minute for 5 years. Well, that makes sense to me, but I'm a dyslexic person. So I say, fill up stadiums, fill up NRG Stadium, 80,000 people, kill everybody, get them out of there, and then fill it back up with 80,000 people and just keep doing that until you get to 6 million. I mean, you can't even imagine that. That's just unbelievable. And
yeah, the way we're taught to teach the Holocaust is like one story at a time, because we can't imagine those numbers. And since we have Steve on the line and his dad survived, just for a moment, if we could just go back and forth a little, if that's okay, Joe.
Yes.
Steve, your dad survived 4 or 5 camps. When he was give us a little bit about some of the horrors that he had to experience. There's probably a gazillion of them, but a few.
Well, one thing I'll reflect back on, which Joe mentioned, it's very interesting because, like I mentioned, in Gunskirchen, most of the guards left the night before. For some reason, one of the guards has stayed behind, and this was told to me by not my dad, but one of the other liberators in 71st. He said that these survivors in the camp got hold of one of these guards, and they ripped him to shreds. And the U.S. Army guys were there, and they backed off and said, "There's no way we're going to stop these people," But this guy did to them. So they knew it was wrong. They knew they should have taken every action possible under the rules of engagement
war
to stop them, but they said there's just no way, and they let him have it. So
I want to say one thing before you finish your story, because we're right now in the middle of finishing up Exhibit 7, which is all about liberation for our Holocaust Garden of Hope. We're immersed in it. And one of the things that was interesting as we were researching was how Eisenhower knew there was quite a lot of these Nazis that were killed by our soldiers or the prisoners, and he just turned aside to it. He did not document it at all. He just let it go.
Right.
Anyway,
well, Eisenhower had been into Ohrdruf, and after Ohrdruf is when he put that order out to all able bodies. So, Steve, here's a one for you. So my dad they taking him around the camp, and they go out to the torture tree, and he goes, "What the hell is a torture tree?" Well, it was a big oak tree inside the gate, one of the main gates at Dachau, and they would hang the prisoner by his thumbs with piano wire, and they would put um, a leather kind of like thong around the scrotum, and then hang a leather stick and put dog food on it, smear some type of food onto this broom handle that had broken off, and it would be about 8 inches long, hanging horizontally to the ground, while that guy is completely, his feet were about 5 feet up in the air. So that's how far off the ground, but by his thumbs, super painful. They wrapped it around the hand and thumb where you're just getting all that pain. Well, the German Shepherd guard dog would jump up and grab that stick and pull on it, and it would rip their genitals off. And then their guts would fall through that hole, and then the dog would eat their guts. Well, he goes, so my dad says, well, why did they have a carpet out here? Why would you put a carpet where you're going to do this? And they go, Major, that's not a carpet. That's a dog. And the prisoners captured one of those German guard dogs, and they stomped it to death, and it made like a carpet because they had done that the early morning the day before, but there was dust and dirt in that area. So it just made it look like this big carpet and they said, he goes, it was flat as, there was no skull. It was just mashed. And he said they could barely pick up their feet to stomp, but that's how many people had come and stomped on that dog. And he said the remnants of the leather thongs were still around in that area, hadn't even been picked up or cleaned up yet. But he said the whole camp was that way. And since he had since he got married in 43, his wife got pregnant in 44 and she was sent home. Well, my oldest sister, Kathy, was born on August, I think, 3rd, 1944. So he had a daughter. Well, he walks around the camp and right near the crematorium and the gas chamber there, because Dachau did have a small gas chamber, there was a mother holding 2 babies and in the pile of the dead bodies, and he lost it right there, just completely lost his lunch. And he said he couldn't eat for like 2 days. And he was so pissed. He had to like kind of try to get away, and he wanted to kill every German he saw from then on. And he said the rest of his life, he goes, I met tens of thousands of Germans. He goes, funny, I never met a Nazi. He goes, every time, he goes, even in later life, oh, we know Nazi. He went through Berchtesgaden. He went through all that area. And the only way you could live there is if you were in the Nazi party. And he knew that. So they lied. They did what they did. And it was a sad thing. But I have that Jeep, the Jeep that my dad drove during the war. We bought a Jeep in LaPorte, Texas, and I restored it. And it has a hood serial number 38611. And so anyway, because of that, my dad had driven that Jeep during the war. Well, when I told him about this serial number when we were restoring it, he goes, come to the house. So he had 16 millimeter color film of World War II, and he comes out into Saint-Mary-Glise, France, and he's standing near the Jeep, and it's 20367-811. So he goes, that's the Jeep I drove all the way into Germany through Dachau, the Eagle's Nest, and all that. So I own that Jeep that's been through Dachau. And
that's amazing story.
Yeah. And it's just one of those things. I still can't believe the people survived, the amount of people who did survive. But obviously there's so many that died. I'm glad your dad kept telling his story, because my dad only talked to a few people not that he actually liberated, but he talked to survivors before, throughout his life. And they were always grateful to him for being a liberator. But I wish we would have talked to even more, just because those kind of stories are so important to keep out there. And the other part about my dad, he talked about his World War II experience, but he only talked about Dachau if he drank a little bit. And my dad was never an alcoholic or anything, and didn't even drink that much. But if he drank a little bit, he would talk about Dachau. And I think he could do it because he would take another drink and then he could kind of like just forget it and then go to sleep. And, maybe he could get through that night without a nightmare, which didn't happen. But anyway, I would tell friends, if he talks about Dachau, don't interrupt and don't ask any questions. Just let him talk. He'll talk a lot, but you got to let him talk. And so in later life, it got to be a little easier because he had talked about it so much, but it was still always tough for him every single time. Ever got easy.
It's called a veil of silence, by the way, Joe. When a lot of survivors didn't talk, a lot of our liberators didn't talk, right? And they just wanted to get on with their lives. Of course, Nazis are not going to talk.
Right.
And, Joop Spittner, who started the Marches of Life, called the March of Remembrance here. I'm the director for Texas. Nazi descendant. His father was a POW here in Tennessee somewhere. Is very committed to fighting anti-Semitism, and he's very much about breaking this veil of silence. In fact, Joop Spittner, just a second, Joop Spittner, I don't know, can you see?
Yeah.
Okay, so you see how he had the hand over the mouth there? Do you see Joop Spittner? So he wrote this book, Breaking the Veil of Silence, and his goal is to help these Germans and others who were part of the fascist movement to open their mouths and tell the truth, or have their kids ask their families, what did they really do during the war? You know what I mean? So there'd be truth spoken, and he's very much committed to that. A lot of us know him. This here is Wolf Finkelman. Can you guys see that? This is Steve's dad. I had asked Steve a moment ago and I interrupted. I apologize. Do you want to just say a few more words about your dad? Which is probably hard to do in a short amount of time, Steve, but we were talking about atrocities. I do remember reading a couple of your dad's, actually a video of his testimony about a bullet going right by his head and something like that. Can you share that story?
Yeah, he didn't talk a whole lot about the atrocities that he witnessed. He did say, like when he was in Auschwitz, when they were at roll call, standing even in the dead cold of the winter times, and that they would have roll call, have to stand there, and then like if somebody moved, they would be shot. And he was there a few times when people were shot, and he said they couldn't move. The other people couldn't move. He said the blood splattered on them, and they had to stand totally still, or they would be the next one. But he did talk a whole lot though about those things. I mean, he got lucky. He was shot when he was in the ghetto earlier. He was shot by a drunk Nazi guard, just randomly shot in the ankle. And his older brother was one of the people who had special privileges to bring food into the ghetto. And this is when he was in a glug out in Rzeszów ghetto. And he snuck my dad out to the back of a hospital, and they operated to remove the bullet. And if it hadn't been for that, he wouldn't have survived. So
how old was he?
He was probably 14 or 15 at the time. But I think anybody who survived had to have stories like this.
Wow. That's amazing.
Yeah. So, Joe, I'm going to go back to your PowerPoint. Is that okay?
You
want me to? Okay.
Yeah.
Share. Tell me if you want me to change.
Yeah, change that. Keep going. One of the things that Fred would talk about was, just the sheer size of the place, and just how horrible it was. It was one of those things that I think it shocked him that he always said, man's inhumanity to man. How could someone do this? And it was just unbelievable. The other thing he talked about is they had these cans at Dachau. They had this can where they had to. That's where they used their food. It was like a little tin cup, and most people had like a little rope tied to it, and they had to defecate in it and then get their food if they ever got food. That's what they had to use, and that's inhumane as well. But we went back there, and my dad. We took my dad and my two sons. So I wanted these generations to see this. We went to Dachau in 2005. And when at Dachau, they rebuilt 3 barracks. They had, after the war, still during the war, they got all the people out of them and they burned them all to the ground with flamethrowers because they had so much disease in these barracks. So anyway, for the museum part of Dachau, they built 3 back at the very front. So anyway, when you go in there, it's kind of a replica of what those guys went through. So my dad is showing my sons, Chris and Nick, this is where they laid. This is, where if the people died, they were kicked back here. This is where they would put those 3 bricks in that 55-gallon drum. Well, there happened to be this teacher with about 25 students, and they were from Germany. And the teacher was speaking to the kids in German. And I kept seeing my dad get irritated. He kept he was reacting to what that guy was talking about. And my sons came up to me and they go, "Dad, Grandpa's getting really mad." And I go, what's going on? And so I really started to pay attention. And he was listening to this teacher tell these 25 students. Now, I don't speak or understand German, but my dad did. So he's listening to what he was saying. And the teacher was telling those 25 students in 2005 that the prisoners had roofs over their head. They were used as labor because the German people were fighting the war, so they had to have labor. And at least they had food, a roof over their head, and all this. And he was making it sound like they were almost like at a nice work camp or something. Well, that made my dad infuriated. So he drove his little cart that he was riding around in right up to that teacher. And he says, "How old are you?" And the guy said he was 26 years old. My dad goes, "You weren't here back in 1945. I was here." And this is all in German, by the way. So then he looks at the students. And as he looked at the students to start talking to them, the teacher put his finger over his lips like this, like, "Don't speak." And my dad looked back and saw that. And he goes, "Oh, they can speak, but I want them to hear this. Your teacher wasn't there. I was here. And everything he's telling you is wrong. They killed these people. They killed them because they're Jewish. They didn't feed them." And he went to talk about how there was cannibalism and they ate the hearts and livers and all that. And he said he was here. He saw all the death and destruction. This camp is spotless and clean right now. But I was here when the bodies were stacked everywhere. And they were used as slave labor he goes, you can read, you know what that gate says, work makes you free. They were because you're going to be dead. That's the only way you were getting out of here, is the way they wanted it. It was to you work. We're going to work you to death or kill you, either way. That's the only thing. This was a factory for killing. And then he told that teacher, he looked at him and said, "Nine shit." Like, I think he said bullshit. And then he drove himself out of that little barrack. And my sons looked at that teacher and they go, "Yeah, what he said." We all walked out.
I remember once somebody's comparing, what happened to the Jews during the Holocaust, that they were slave labor. And a Holocaust survivor, it was either a survivor or Primo Levi. I mean, he was a survivor. I don't remember who gave the answer. He said, "No, we weren't slaves. We were like sandpaper. Slaves you take care of to keep the work going. Sandpaper, you just wear them down till they're gone."
That's a good point. And I like hearing it from someone who was there And that's a great answer, because no, they weren't slave and they weren't slave labor. Because like you say, if you wanted your slave population to keep working, you had to at least take care of them and feed them. Maybe not as good as you, but at least you had to do something. Here, they weren't doing anything to help them at all. It was abuse after abuse after abuse. And that picture right there, that one before Eisenhower, that guy's leg was cut off. He was in the train. So as torture, they cut his leg off. Why would you cut the guy's leg off? I don't get it. It just, you can't, there's just things that happen, you know, but it's amazing. But I'm glad Eisenhower did what he did. You know, my dad says the same thing. He goes, I wasn't glad I went through there. That's the wrong word. He said, but now for history's sake, I could be one of those people that can deny, because the first time he actually heard anybody was that Ahmadinejad from Iran at one point was saying the Holocaust never happened. And I know other people had said it, but he was a world leader at the time. And my dad goes, yep, see, Eisenhower was right. There would be a guy coming along, and that was like 60 years later, would be denying that this ever happened. So that's the type of thing that happens. And this is why I think this is so important. And
yes, I want to say thank you so much, Joe, and Steve does this a lot too, Speaks Everywhere, for keeping the narrative, you know, because you heard straight from a primary source, both of you did, from your parents. Now you're a witness, and then you get to then you continue to tell the story, and you brought your kids to the camp, so they can know. We like to have, for this virtual coffee encounter, and we only have like 10, not even 10 minutes left, to open it up for anyone. And of course, Mitch, I didn't give you a chance to ask any questions, but if there's anyone here who's online from our attendees, if this is the time to write your question in the chat or in the Q&A area, please.
I have one for Joe.
Yeah. Go ahead and do it, and we'll read
So,
it.
Joe, to piggyback on what Rosalie's saying, what you're doing is so important, so critical. And your talk is very graphic and upsetting, but we need to be put in that position again so we never do forget. I think there's only 17 states in America that actually make it mandatory to teach on the Holocaust. So who knows how many students probably hear very little to nothing. I wanted to know if when did this go from being, say, your father's story to your mission? What was it that you got to own it? And now you travel with the Jeep, speak everywhere.
Well, I guess October 4th, 2010, when he passed away. But I never thought it would be my mission. But I guess the Jeep, and when you start telling the story of the Jeep, and there's other things, you know, there was actually some good stories with the Jeep, funny stories, but there's also serious stories. And the Jeep kind of came that way, but also other veterans that I've met, and they said, oh, I see you're keeping your dad's story alive. They said that to me. And so once you hear it like that, then you start like, oh, okay, well, because it wasn't one of those I didn't think this out like, okay, now I'm going to start doing this. I just fell into it to a point, but I'm glad I did. One, I enjoy talking about World War II, and I take tours over to Europe to see World War II battlefields, and I go everywhere my dad went. But there's people who get really upset when it's the Dachau day. And I tell them, I go, today's not going to be a fun day. But today is why the whole reason that you're doing this, being on this tour to see World War II, is because what the Nazis did to these people. So it's kind of I call it the necessary evil of the tour, but you have to do it. Now, what they tell me after it, and I had one guy, he He was crying. He was mad. He wanted to punch somebody. And he came up to me and he actually was kind of yelling at me, "Why did you make me do this?" And after a while, he came back to me and he said, "I'm so glad you made me do this." So I understood what he was doing, because it's that tough. Because he was one of those that went through the museum. He literally took 4 hours walking through the museum. He read almost every single thing. He walked miles around the camp. He saw everything. And so he really absorbed it, and he was really upset about it. But at the same time, he said the trip would have been incomplete if we wouldn't have gone there either. So it's just one of those type of things. And this goes back to, like, people don't talk about it. Think about the worst day of your life. Something really traumatic happened to you. And then someone going, "Hey, you need to talk about that. And tomorrow, hey, you need to bring that up." Well, no, your mind is set and made to not think about it. You're trying to put it away so you can cope with regular life. So I get it, how hard it is for some of these people to talk about it. Now, we know as adults how valuable it is because it gets their story out. But, I'm the baby at 12 and it kind of fell in my lap.
Well, we're so thankful for what you do, your passion, and the fact that your dad had the Jewish dog tags. There's this big thing that just happened with all of the graveyard. I think it's in Normandy, where all of the white crosses are. A lot of the Jews who were soldiers, they chose not to have a Jewish star on their dog tags to protect themselves, and they were buried as Christians with the cross. And now there's a whole phenomena where the families are saying, no, these were Jews, and they're changing it to the Star of David on that graveyard. I brought Morris Narinsky on. Morris, he's going to be our speaker. Just so you guys know, please, who are listening, Morris will be next month's virtual coffee encounter, just 1 week after Auschwitz liberation. He was born just 1 week afterwards, and he's going to tell that story. But just for a moment, since he's on today, I wanted him to say a few words to you, Joe.
Okay.
Joe, thank you so much for sharing your story. I learned a lot that I didn't know. My father was interned at Dachau from July 44. He was sent there from Stutthof, which my wife and I toured last summer. We took a 3-week Eastern European trip, and we went to Stutthof or Stutzowo, which is one of the Stutzowo in Polish, which is one of the major camps. And then my mother was at one of the Stutthof sub-camps until liberation. She was pregnant with me at the time.
Wow.
And then my father was transferred to Dachau. And so it's possible that your father and my father may have crossed paths.
Exactly.
Came across a lot of the prisoners. But this is not necessarily widely known, but the Jews who were liberated, they didn't immediately leave Dachau. There was no place to go.
Right.
But after they were fed, that's the big difference. And we were transferred. Most of the Jews from there went to Feldafing in southern Germany, which was the largest of the DP camps in the American sector. And then my mother made her way across Poland and Czechoslovakia and Germany to meet up with my father. So I think my father first saw me when I was about 9 months old.
Yeah. Now, how did that happen?
He's not going to tell that story.
Okay.
You guys have to.
Well, now you have to tune in next week.
You have to tune in next month. Don't answer, Morris.
The point I want to make is I still don't know how my father could have survived.
Right.
I'm sure he was useful to the Nazis for whatever reason. He was there for 9 months.
Wow. How old was he at the time?
He was born in 2008, so it would have been 36.
Oh, wow.
At liberation.
Wow.
Yeah.
You know what's real interesting about this connections that happen is we just this week I got to speak with the Three Brothers Bakery owner, Robbie
Bobby Jacker.
Chucker, and Simon Wellner. We found out that Simon Wellner's dad was a Holocaust survivor in the same camp as the Juckers brothers, and Robbie never and Simon had a photograph of that a German resident took 3 days after liberation of Simon Wellner's dad and the two brothers, Saul and Sigmund. And when I showed it to Robbie, he totally was affected. To see his dad very emaciated, but alive, and China smile with that picture, and the lady developed it and gave it to them. That will be in our exhibit 7. So we only have a few more minutes. I do want to tell everyone, thank you for watching us. Please register on our website to get our newsletters once a month. And also know that if you want to help us financially, I'm going to share a little bit about our garden and stuff that we're doing. Just a second. This is our one of our websites, which is all hra18.org. Oops, I forgot to hit share. This is our website, which has all of our events that we do, and virtual and live. This is our other website, wherever it is. There it is. This is our website, which is used for educators. We're partnering with Texas A&M, teaching teachers how to teach the Holocaust. This is a virtual site that's used for each of our exhibits. Great for teaching the Holocaust, and a lot of our stories are on there. And this is the virtual garden, which we were donated this property, Holocaust Garden of Hope, on the banks of Lake Houston. It's a place to the Holocaust survivor who spoke, had a veil of silence, never told his story. Alex Pollock lived near me and asked me to build a park. And so I said I would help. And we found someone to donate it, $250,000 piece of property. And now we're raising funds to finish the exhibit. It's beautiful, and it's always free. And we have some images and that we share with Texas Holocaust Museum Houston. What Alex wanted was a place where people could be outside and ponder and think. And what's very special about what we have here is people come to this exhibit. I don't know how to go back. This is hra18.org. People come to this exhibit because they are going to the restaurants and the shopping areas. And people who would never want to know or care or know anything about the Holocaust are learning about it. We had over a couple of thousand people here recently for the 4th of July fireworks, and people were just shocked that such a thing is existent, and now they want to go to the Holocaust Museum Houston to learn more, etc. What I want to show here, I want to dedicate today's before we close. One of our Holocaust survivors from Houston, a child survivor from France, who spoke at our March of Remembrance this past year, died this past week. And so we're gonna remember Michael Spiegel today. Quite a story. He has a book that you can get, which I can't find right now, but look it up, Michael Spiegel. And actually, let me find it for you so you could get his book to honor him. Michael Spiegel. Faith, Hope, and Resilience is the name of his book. You could get it on Amazon. We don't get any money for this, but I'm just telling you. We would love you guys to be part of our covenant circle and be monthly donors. we were donated our offices for 20 years. And now they're selling the building. And so we now have to pay for offices. So it costs money to do what we do. So if anybody wants to help, we would love your help. And Michael passed away. Yes, Michael didn't know that. Michael, one of our docents. Yes. He fell down the stairs, 98 years old, and was alone. And then when he was found, he'd only lasted like a week. So we got to take care of our elderly, make sure that they don't live alone too long, and keep track of them and have them wear those. What is that called, Mitch? The special thing you wear on your chest. But what is it? A medic alert? Yes.
Yeah, medic.
So Marielle, are you still on to give us our closing video? Maybe not. Okay, so we usually end with a l'chaim with your cup. If you have a cup, Joe, you've got your Dr. Pepper. You've got your cup, Morris. All right, Mitch disappeared on me. All right, we've got 0 Dr. Peppers. Look at that. All right, l'chaim, this is our l'chaim to you. Thank you for watching us, and spread the word about what you just learned. Thanks, Joe.
Thank you.
Shalom.